Hello and welcome back to YachtBuyer 360. Today we're going to tour the Prestige F5.7. This was actually launched at the Cannes Boat Show in 2024. We're catching up with it at Dusseldorf in January 2025. A quick look at the stats for you, and just a reminder, you are in control of what you watch here. I'll walk you through the boat. You can grab the screen with your mouse or your finger, or tilt it if you're on a tablet or a phone, and you can look wherever you like as we move through. Starting back here, as you can see, it's a good sized bathing platform with built-in steps. So as it drops down into the water, you've got some stairs created down into the sea. It's also where you're going to launch and recover the tender from if you're carrying a tender. Heading up into the cockpit, you've got the shore power connection hidden away under here, letterbox passerelle if you have one fitted, and a decent shower head for a deck shower when you come out of the water and you fancy a shower after a swim. And then this is a key addition to this new F-line range, the way they've orientated this cockpit. So instead of the benches facing into the boat, they are opposing, and you've got the table in the middle that opens out if you want to dine out here. And it's nice that you've got this space, if I'm looking aft now, this space that runs behind them, so you've got full circulation around this cockpit, because you've got a little wet bar down here, so you can serve guests from here, although the galley is very close by, but it's just nice to have that option. And on this side, another option on the starboard side, the IPS joystick. So you've got a docking station down here with a bow thruster, meaning if you're mooring stern to in the med, you've got a great view aft. You can really clearly sight the end of the bathing platform. Incidentally, this table drops up and down, so you can make this into a sun pad. There's an infill cushion. You can just begin to pick up, if we're looking forward now, how well that connects to the galley especially. But we'll go into more detail when we head inside. Then you've got this sunshade that drops down at quite a steep angle, but it does give you some shade and some privacy. Again, that's another cost option. And we begin to see a lighting theme that you're going to see throughout the boat. These sort of contour lines that run through into the interior, right down to the cabins. It's really nicely done, actually. You don't have spots all over the ceiling, you've just got those lines running through the boat. You can see this big window as well, part of the ocean view galley they call it. But again, we'll see the effect better from inside. I'm going to stay on deck for the moment because there's people in the saloon. Let's head round. Symmetrical decks. There's a little break in the boarding gate here, so you can jump off amidships if you need to. No side door on this side, but you can see there is an opening window. So you've got ventilation on this side. And then it's quite a few steps up to the foredeck. You can have teak out here, but then as you move forward, it completely flattens out. If you pan the camera down, you'll see nice high tow rails, guard rails come easy to hand as well. You've got rails on top of the coach roof and a bit of storage, well, cup holders anyway. And it's the usual thing here. They're trying to make the most out of this area, make it another living space in its own right. So you've got these cushions on either side of the anchor windlass. You've got pop-up lights, this little table that protrudes from the coach roof, and some sunbathing pads here with the pop-up backrest, so you can sit up a bit more comfortably if you don't want to be lying flat. But yeah, you know, if you're stern to in a Mediterranean marina, for example, then you can come up here and be away from the crowd and have some privacy. And it's a nice place to sit when the boat's going along at displacement speed as well. You get a bit of breeze. Maybe you don't want to be up here when it's doing its 22 knot cruising speed, but yeah, this is a really nice living space, and it's obviously quite different to the Flybridge, which we're going to go up to in a minute. Talking the Flybridge, they've clearly wrapped this section here. This looks like a vinyl wrap to me, and it's showing a few watermarks and a bit of dirt here and there, so possibly not the best material to have up there, especially because it's dark. But it shouldn't absorb too much light, shouldn't get too hot. There we go, final look at the foredeck from this angle. And then I think we should head upstairs and check out the Flybridge. Let's go and check out the Flybridge then. Nice shallow staircase with wooden treads up the top deck. And it is an option, but this particular boat has got the hard top. So you have this park canvas sunroof with a solid forward end, and that is electronically controlled, so you can close that and open that with the touch of a button. as standard you can just have the radar arch, but I imagine most will go for the hardtop. It just adds a bit of flexibility. Upper helm, naturally. That's quite a simple, clean arrangement. You've got your Garmin MFD with the bulk of your information, the smaller Volvo Penta screen, which is useful so you can always display engine information no matter what's on the Garmin screen over there. And your throttles, your joystick, your IPS joystick. As I said, it's an IPS boat, so you've got a joystick up here, a joystick at the lower helm. And although it's easy to get out the lower helm, it is nice to be able to moor the boat from up here, and you've got a decent all-round view. You're quite a long way forward, but if you turn to look back, you can see I can just see the aft end of the bathing platform from here. So if I'm standing up and mooring stern to, I can see how close I am to the quayside. However, this particular boat has got the surround view, the Garmin surround view. So as you can see, we've got a plan view of the boat here. If you look forward now, I'm looking towards the MFDs, so you can check your proximity to objects using the cameras. Sunbathing space right forward. A nice place just to stretch out, and it has these weighted backrests, so that can be moved around anywhere in this area. It's not fixed, it's weighted, but it's not fixed, so you can move that around depending on what you're doing. And then after, you've got the living space. Wet bar on the starboard side with the grill inset, fridge underneath, and a bit of storage in the sink, of course, and it all hides away. You've got this nice lid so you can close this away when you're not using it. And then seating right aft. That table opens up like the one downstairs, and it's still got a good bit of protection from this overhang. So, when you're dining, having lunch on a hot day, you have got a bit of protection up here. Storage underneath as well. You can chuck lines and covers in there quite easily. And this big hatch. So if you're travelling up here, you don't want kids especially going downstairs, you can close this off and they can't get down to the lower deck when you're moving along. Okay, time to head inside. So access is through this door on the starboard side. I mentioned the pop-up window, and this is where you see the benefit. The way this connects to the cockpit, you've got the bar area. If you look aft now, you've got the bar area there, so you can line up your drinks. And the galley runs across, which is quite novel really in this market, and you can wedge yourself in between. You've got a sink here, induction cooking. There's space over on this side for a domestic sized fridge and freezer, and then storage dotted either side as well. And these really remind me of the British Airways logo. Hopefully they're more reliable. But yeah, it's an interesting take on the galley. Some will like it, some won't, but I think it's quite novel, and it's not just about that view aft. It does provide extra storage space. You've got this unit up here for some more storage, and then right forward you have your main living area, and this is big. I mean, look at the seating here. Really big wrap of sofa. We saw that window from the outside. If you look ahead of me now, there's that sliding window for ventilation on that side. Big table. It's on an adjustable pedestal, so you can make that a coffee table or a dining table. Obviously it opens up, and the side door, which isn't next to the helm, so you can't sort of pop out and get out there too quickly, but you have got a side door, which is always nice to see. Great for the flow of guests around the boat, and yeah, you can easily get out to the side deck from the midships at least. And then this seat is quite clever. They've deactivated it for the show, but this is it in the helm position, so two people can sit facing forward when the boat's out on the water and you're driving from down here. But push a few buttons and the backrest flips forward, the seat drops down, and then you have another sort of couple of seats facing into the saloon. So it just makes more of that seat. If it was always facing forward, you'd never use it when the boat's stationary. And of course, to become a helm seat, it rises up as well, so it wouldn't be set that low in the driving position. Let's look more closely at the lower helm. So twin Garmin MFDs, again, you can see we've got the cameras up on the starboard one there, but you can run your charts through there, radar, and then you've got the Volvo Penta screen again, so you've always got your engine information out, which I like. We've got the zip wake trim system, so that uses auto trim blades to keep the boat on the straight and narrow. You've also, of course, got a repeater of your Volvo Penta joystick, and the throttles that all sit nicely under the skipper's hand, and a separate control for the bow thrust as well, because sometimes even with an IPS boat you're going to want to just control the bow and not maybe engage the joystick. You can't really stand at this helm, but it's a comfortable seated position, And though the windscreen looks quite shallow, the view isn't too bad. That said, I haven't driven it yet, so I'd be interested to see what it's like out on the water. But with all of these, you know, the trim help from Volvo and Zipwake, you know, there shouldn't be too much of a hump as you get up onto the plane. There generally isn't with IPS boats anyway, so I don't think that will be too much of an issue. Final thing up here is that the TV is in this cabinet. Again, they've locked it half up, half down, so people don't constantly put it up and down at the show, but you can see that will raise completely out. These two people in this seat aren't going to be able to watch it, but pretty much everybody else can get hopefully in a comfortable position to watch the TV, and then when you don't want it, it drops right down into that unit. Okay, let's head downstairs and have a look at the cabins. There's a central companionway from the main deck down to the lower deck accommodation. And the owner's cabin is forward in this boat, so we'll go there last. I'm going to turn amidships now and we'll head down to the guest accommodation. On the way, on the starboard side, you find the day head. Relatively close to this staircase, so it is well positioned for guests to use during the day. No shower in here, that is just a toilet. But headroom's decent. There's ventilation as well, which is always nice, and a bit of storage underneath the vanity unit there. In the moving amidships, you have a split cabin arrangement, and this is obviously because the owner's cabin is forward. So let's start with the slightly smaller one. This is the twin. It's a bit pinched, but just about space to have two separate berths. I suspect you could infill that if you wanted to make it a double, but they're so close, it won't make a huge amount of difference. I like the lighting as well, how that's inset into the ceiling there. And you've got things like reading lights and repeater switches up by the bed head. And there's an escape hatch in the ceiling as well if you need to get out in an emergency. Again, there's natural ventilation and a hull window, and you've got hanging storage as well. Not bad hanging storage at all for a cabin like this. But the best guest cabin is this one here on the port side, where they've angled the berth to give you a bit more floor space and a bit more room around the berth so you can get in both sides. If this was pushed right up against there, then the person on that side would have to clamber over the other person to get out. They can get out their side. It's a bit of a scramble, but it will work quite nicely. There's even space for this nice shelving up behind the bed. They've certainly worked hard to make it a bit more interesting down here. TV's mounted up in that corner with some storage underneath. And another thing I like about this cabin is that they've got a walk-in wardrobe. Again, quite an unusual addition for a boat like this. It could probably be better racked out for hanging, because that's your only hanging storage option there, not much of a rail, but there's plenty of space to play with here and you can configure it how you like. So that works well. And obviously the machinery is behind me, the other side of that wardrobe, so you know, guests will be more exposed to that than the owner. But you deserve to have a peaceful night's sleep if you're the owner. You've worked hard to own this boat. And you have got this cabin here, which is really rather lovely. The benefits are great headroom, being right forward here, and privacy. Yes, you'll get some water slap on the hull if you're on anchor or if you're on a buoy, but you're a long way from the generator, stabiliser. You're well insulated up here, and you've got lots of floor space to play with. Enough room here to leave a nice walkway between the end of the bed and the bulkhead, and still have a little sofa here with a nice big television mounted up on the wall. Storage is great. There's big mirrored wardrobes and drawers on the way in that all light up as you open them, which is always quite nice. And behind the door even, dressing table with the backlit mirror and the faux marble top. It's quite a nice little use of space, that. And then this has got a very nice private bathroom. Large enough, in fact, to have twin sinks and a separate shower cubicle and rocketing headroom. It's really, really spacious in here. And they've got this smoked panel overhead, so you do get some natural light coming in, which just enhances the feeling of space. But it's a really impressive space. Nice to have things like twin sinks. Again, it's just something you wouldn't expect, really. Decent storage underneath this counter. Hooks everywhere as well, so you can hang robes and towels, and a pocket door. So that's not gobbling up space in the bathroom or the cabin. The door isn't in the way, it slides into the bulkhead. It's a really good solution. Quite a unique arrangement in this size. Absolute does it, but most other competitors have got their owner's cabin and midships. Prestige have chosen to do it this way. There are drawbacks, as I've mentioned, but it's an effective space, and I love the lighting. We saw this a bit earlier on in the guest cabins, but it is nice how it's inset so neatly into the ceiling, and they've got some skylights too, so you know, natural light is pretty good. Okay, that's the interior. Let's head aft and take a look at the crew space and engine room. Starting with the crew space, access to that is through this hatch on the port side in the cockpit. It's unlikely to be a boat that's going to run with crew, but there are just some markets where they need to have it as an option. It is an option. Not all boats will have it, and if you don't have it, it's just a storage area, essentially a really big lazarette, and there is access through the transom as well. You may have spotted the transom hatch when we came on the boat. Well, that is direct access to here, so if you're loading stuff from the back of the boat, you don't have to come through this hatch. And I'll pop my head down there and we can have a bit of a closer look, because this one has got the crew space. We're inside, and actually it opens up relatively nicely. I'd definitely be sleeping with my head this end, so you haven't got that intrusion over your head. It's tight for 2 people, but 1 person occasionally would be pretty comfortable down here. There's that access hatch I mentioned. And there's no shower down here, but you have got a sink. And you've got a toilet as well, and a little bit of storage. Yeah, I mean, it's really not designed to run with crew on any sort of permanent basis. But there may be occasions where some markets want a deckhand. It could even pass as the occasional guest cabin if you're really desperate for sleeping space, but there's no natural light. So yeah, I would imagine this is going to end up as a storage space most of the time, and for that, it's very well suited indeed. Right, let's look at the engines. Finally then, let's have a look inside the engine room. This is another hatch in the middle of the cockpit. And I've made a grave error. I've stood the wrong side, but this demonstrates how easy it is to move around and come around the other side. And then there's a nice ladder here down into the space itself. Well, this is very neat and tidy. I'm looking forward now, if you want to swing the camera around. And this boat is clearly very heavily spec'd, because we've got the generator, and underneath that we have the Seakeeper. Now I'd argue that if you need to do serious maintenance of the Seakeeper, having it trapped under the generator may cause issues, but they haven't got many options on a boat this size with the engine room space they have. But you know, there's a decent uptick in engineering down here. They've got things like twin Raycore filters, so if one's clogged you can easily flip over to the other one. You've got really clear access there to the raw water strainers. I mean, these boats are built to a price. You know, they're designed to be good value, but Beneteau Group has built thousands of boats, so the processes, the actual know-how when it comes to building boats at scale, there's not really anyone better in the business. So it's very clean down here. You can see the stainless steel fuel tanks on either side. Artificial light is good. Well, in terms of headroom, if you want to flip around and look at me, to get underneath the hatch, I'm stooping here. You can stand in the hatch and look around quite comfortably, but once in, yeah, you're crouching down if you're as tall as I am, which is around 6 feet. We've got the electronics panel aft, and behind that are the pods. So pod access, not that easy from the engine room. I suspect there's probably a hatch underneath the crew space to get to the pods if you need to, but engine inspection is a piece of cake. And 1 engine option, D8 IPS 800s, 600 horsepower per side. Very, very simple. But yeah, it's really clean and tidy down here. Very easy to look after and easy to move around as well. Nicely done, Prestige. Well, there we go. That's the Prestige F5.7. On the other channel, we did quite an interesting video after Cannes where we compared this to other 55-footers, a sports cruiser, a crossover and a trawler. Quite interesting to compare them, so go and have a look at that. If you want more information on this model, go to yachtbuyer.com and search for its page. You can look at all the data, read reviews and compare it to its rivals. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did. Thanks very much for watching YachtBuyer 360.